What's up, guys? We're gonna build beats, and today I'm gonna be showing you guys how to use less is more in your beats. If you guys haven't subbed already, or turn a post on your zone as you do so, because that's up a lot. Let's hop right into it. So BPM, I'm just using the most bare bones generic BPM 140, just because it's the easiest one that anyone can rap to. Okay. Now for scale, you can use a major, minor, whatever you want. I'm gonna be using a minor just because I like the minor. So we can do a G minor, for example. You can always transpose. So that is it for the setup. So now what we're gonna do is go ahead and make our melody. All right, so now we're starting with our melody. So this is where less is more matters the most. Drums, you know, you can always tell when it's too many drums. So this is the VST. So with this, you want to get in the mindset as if someone is, or you're being rushed or something like that, right? Because that's how less is more came to be. So what I like to do is imagine if someone paid you a good amount of money to make a custom beat that you do not want to make. Maybe it's a genre you hate, right? But they already paid you, so you got to do it. So you want to get in that mindset. Okay. So we don't got to make a bunch of crazy chords and try to be the most beautiful producer ever. No, we don't got to do that. Okay. You put it on the root, put your note on the root. Okay. And there's a million ways you can go about this, right? If you want to create a chord upward, you can, but I like to do it backward, right? So this is upward. If you don't know how to make a chord, I like to do it backwards. Okay. And I usually just stick with that dyad. If you want to do this and then pull it up for extra notes, you can, but this is all we need. Just make a chord backward. The reason is because we skip this step here, right? If we do this, pull it down and then switch notes over, we skip this step for the bass line, right? Okay. So wait, let me go back. So we just go down like that. Simple. Now the next step from here is you just pull this over. Now we don't want, unless we're going to make this super melodic, we don't want this to be like this, because we want this to be very rappable. Because if you think about it, if someone is trying to vibe to this and the chords keep changing, it's going to be difficult, right? Now that's not the case all the time, but I like to make it easier and just spread it out and then copy it over, so it's a consistent melody. So that is the bass line. So we can cut it here and then we can kind of go ahead and build chords. All right, so now we're gonna do the chords. Now anything that I make here, I'm gonna try my best to explain what I'm seeing, because I may click things and do things automatically just out of muscle memory or whatever. But first step is you make the chord according to the note that you have. So this is a G and we're in a G minor, so this first chord is a G minor. So you can skip area of the note, skip that one, place, skip that one, place. Or if you're not sure how to do that yet, you can use these stamps. Now don't just blindly use these stamps, actually pay attention to the patterns and how they look so you can recognize them. But if you use the stamp, it's the same thing. So what we can do, since we're using a guitar, we want to take our middle note and pull it up so it sounds more realistic. And this same note, okay, I'm gonna just copy it, this same note. Now I wouldn't do this step. Well, let me zoom in a little bit more. I wouldn't do this step if I was actually just not recording or whatever. But take this note and pull it over, right? I would literally just place it myself, right? But I'm trying to show you the process. Let's make this a little bit smaller. And then what we do here is make a chord out of this note, right? The reason we do this is because we're staying in harmony no matter what, right? Because when you make a chord, you're making a chord progression, right? And you just clicking around trying to figure out what works. It works sometimes, but this is given. So let's continue this chord. All right, now what we need to do is just add other notes. Simple as that. You can, you know, if you want to do something like this. Right, it's up to you what you want to do. We could just do something basic. You can kind of just do something like this, maybe. Let's see. Right, starting to sound a lot better. So over here, okay, the second part, and everything I'm doing over here you can do with these notes too, but I just want to walk through this very slowly. So over here, we don't want to just copy this over, right? We want this to actually sound like something different. So same thing, we can just make our triad, right? So make a chord, but let's keep going up 2 more notes like that. right? And then I might want to add like a little higher note. So if we take this third note in our triad, the third note, okay, and you just pull it up, and then you can kind of just offset it, and then you can kind of choose what notes you want. So we can do something like that. I'm gonna highlight this, hold shift to like micro fine tune it, and I'll just fine tune it a little bit. And then over here we can delete this, drag this over, smooth that, and then so it's not the same, you can kind of change this however you like. I'm gonna just use the original chord, right? Because I know 100% it'll be in harmony, right? And then maybe we can drag a note. Let's drag the F over like that. Okay, and that should sound pretty good. Let's see. Probably drag these notes over. All right, I like that. So now, since we slowly went through that, I'm gonna just do this one, and then I'm gonna let you hear it after. All right, so this is the second half. On this part, I just added a few other notes. So if you notice, everything is pretty much the same, right? But all I did was just kind of add a little bit of flavor and just offset some of the notes, right? And that's for variation, okay? So that is a melody. I'll play it. And it could be better, but for time's sake, we could leave it here and move on to the next instruments. Okay, so now we're gonna use our second guitar for our melody, which is right here. So what I like to do is just use the mid note of our original chord, right? Or it could just be the top note. So the A sharp, and I'm gonna do the first one and fast forward through the other ones just because of time. But what I like to do is have a range. So we can, so A sharp 5 to A sharp 4, and now everything in between we can kind of use. So what I'm gonna do is, let's use this thirds grid. Let's see. Right now, this is all given to you, right? So we already know the root works. So all we gotta do is just use an off note, and it's already going. If you notice the flow is going down. So we could do something like that. And then from here we can build a chord, and this is just how you harmonize with the notes. Something like that. Right, and then we could just copy it over and then make changes. So at this point I'm going to fast forward, but I will explain after I'm done. Okay, so at this point all I did was make a little bit of variation here using the same exact notes. Okay, just changing it up. I'm not putting anything different in. I'm not using a different note, right? So copied it over. And then over here, what we can do is go up an octave. We'll make a chord out of this note like this. So if we were to make a chord, it would end up like that. And just delete that so it's different. And now we could take this A, okay? Pull that up twice, and now we can kind of make a melody out of this. Change the bar, and this is just for variation. Let's do something like this. Let's copy it over. All right. This should sound pretty good. And then let's go an octave, well, not an octave. Let's build a chord backwards from this one. You can see everything's in harmony. Delete these, keep the middle one. Simple as that. So that is our counter. Let's move on to our last instrument. All right, so now we have a woodwind. You can kind of pick any instruments you want. I just chose these. So now this is like a counter or accent or just extra sound. Now, what I'm learning is that you don't need to really put these, like make these consistent. What works best, in my opinion, with like these extra sounds is having a specific spot. So you follow the same things as a regular counter, right? So we can go octave to octave, so A sharp to A sharp. But you see how this is consistent. You don't need to have it consistent. You can literally just play it like at one spot. So for example, we could just maybe put some right here, right? And let's go from A sharp to A sharp. And now we can kind of play within here. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna fast forward it just to save time because it's already been going on too long. So it's A sharp to A sharp. We could change the grid to thirds since this is a woodwind, and I'm gonna just go ahead and just make something. All right, so we're back, and thirds grid. This is what I came up with. So if you notice, a lot of this is the same note. Like if you notice, a lot of these are the same notes. You're just kind of bouncing back between them. All right. And we're literally leaving that just like that, and we're not changing it, just one part. This will just make the melody sound a little bit more alive rather than like generated, right? So it's like consistent, like a loop over and over and over again, right? So that is that, and now we just add our bass and then process. All right, so we have easy bass for our bass, and with this we could just copy our bass line from the original. And if you notice, after we made our chords, everything else is pretty much written. We just been filling in the blanks. So for this, we could turn this up, and then literally just stretch these out. And if you want to add another note, we can do something like this. Pull that up, copy this over, and then we're gonna pull these back about right where like our 808s would hit, right? And then do this, and then we could take these notes and pull them up an octave, and this is how you kind of get something different with using the same notes. Right, and it sounds somewhat different. It's not just the same repeat. So there's our bass line. So now what I'm gonna do is go through some processing. I'm gonna throw some stuff on, and just give you some ideas of stuff you can throw on these, because the processing is very, very, very important. Okay, so now we're on to the processing. I'm gonna try to make this quick, but I do this because I want to give you ideas of what you can apply to yours. But this part is very important, because this is a big part of less is more. Right, a lot of people can just put down a few chords, but then their sound selection or their sound design, which is kind of this, makes it sound a lot better where they don't have to add a lot. So this is important. So what I like to do, especially with these guitars, is I like to pan the main one to the left, and we can pan this one to the right a little bit. All right, now the main thing on this you want to pay attention to is a delay. A delay or reverb will make these sound good automatically. Right, all this other stuff is just extra. This is a template that I just have, but we only need this one. I mean, if you just want to hear the whole thing, I'll play it. And this is what I'm using. Right, and with the EQ, we just boost frequencies that we need. And this, like I said, this is a preset, so this is molded to the shaper box because it's low. Okay, but we only really need the delay. Over here, since this is a counter, I boosted the highs so that it stands out more on the right side when I pan it, and we just added the same delay preset. Okay. All right, now the flute. Again, delay. If you notice, I'm using a lot of delays and reverbs. Supermassive. This is the default preset. All right, and then I just took out some of the bass, and then this is the flute. You can see how much just adding these things can, just delay and reverb can change the melody, and then the bass is just. Okay, and that is it. So now we can go ahead and add our drums, which would be the easiest part. All right, so for our low end, I'm gonna try to make this quick. We could just copy this here, and then Shift D, and then let's pull it up a little bit. And then what we can do, let's take these out, and then we can just add the 808s wherever we need. I'm gonna fast forward through this a little bit, but I'm gonna just do this part real quick. And then do something like this. Just kind of follow that same little pattern. this is super low, so I might choose a different 808 later, but I'm gonna fast forward through the rest of this real quick. Okay, and then I will turn this down an octave. And since this is so low, I'm gonna add another 808 because I'm gonna need some variation. So let's copy this over. Then I'm gonna actually go try to find 808. Let's see. I like that one. All right. And then I'm gonna just fast forward, adding some variation. You could literally just do something like this. I kind of like how the low end is there. All right, so that's it. That's just extra. We don't really need that entirely. Just want something because this 808 was too low. All right, so that's the low end. So now let's go ahead and throw in our drums. All right, so now we're gonna start our drums. Now these do not need to be crazy. Drums are nice, they sound good, especially when you put a bunch of stuff in there. But for something like this, a beat like this where it's more melody oriented, you do not need the most complex drum pattern, right? We got our clap, and then with the hi-hats, what I would do to start is go fill each 4 steps, go in here, highlight it all, hold shift, click and drag, and pull them over like that. And then I will hold Alt and drag my wheel down so that the velocity, and it has a little rhythm now. Right, and if you want to add a chop or 2 in there, you can, right? I'm not gonna do that, but right, and from there you can kind of, you know, do what you want. But I think most people or most artists, they don't care. Only producers care about stuff like this. So you kind of got to check yourself as you're making a beat, like, do I really need this in here, right? And then we could just throw something in like that. Simple, and we got like a basic nice little beat, right? Change our 808. Right, and then I will probably use this 808 actually with this, with all this on here. Just kind of solo it. So now we got a slightly different part just by adding that 1 808 earlier. But that's it for this video. Hopefully it was helpful. Again, the processing is very important. Like, it is very important. And then on my master, just a soft clipper. And this is just to make sure that it doesn't clip in the video. But yeah, just remember those effects are very important. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Hopefully it's helpful. Make sure you like and subscribe if you're new. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.